Whenever it comes to Blender, there's two types of duplicate. There's Shift D, and then we'll use X to place it over to the side, and then there's Alt D, which we'll use Z and place it up above. And the difference between these two applies is that this particular apply that was done with Shift D is no longer connected to this object via its object data, and we can see that via this object having no numerical value here, indicating that it's sharing a data block. However, when we click this one, we see that it has a 2, indicating it is sharing a data block, which has this one also showing a 2, indicating they are both sharing the same data block. What this means to us is that if I tab into edit mode and I grab this face or grab this edge and I bevel it, we see that it also takes place on the duplicate. In fact, I can grab this edge, also bevel it, and that takes place on the duplicate. However, when it comes to Boxcutter, things get a little bit trickier. If we were to perform a cut and then we hit Boxcutter Smart Apply, we see that instead of it actually going to the other object, it actually breaks the data connection. We can of course select this object and then select this object and press Ctrl L and just share its object data like so. But even if we were to change our behavior to be destructive, we're not able to share our object data automatically between multiple objects. Now that we went over the foundation of the situation, when it comes to multi-use data, let us open up the latest version of Boxcutter. And from here, I'm just going to do the same example. I'm going to Shift D and duplicate this off to the side, press X in order to constrain to the X axis, select our main object, and then press Alt D and then Z in order to constrain to the Z axis, and we'll place this above. So just like before, if we go to our object data tab, we see that this has 2 users, indicating that it's sharing a user with this, and this object is not related to it at all. So let us just perform a cut. Let us perform another cut and click apply, and we see that now it actually goes over to the multi-use object without having to break the data. So this is a big improvement. I did another video where I went in a little bit more depth as far as what this means to Boxcutter as a whole by being able to work with multi-use data, but this is definitely one of those things that anyone keen on their Blender is definitely noticed as an oddity with Boxcutter, and I'm just glad to see that it's finally been resolved and we're able to cut and retain object data shared across multiple objects. In this case, you see me actually using it in non-destructive mode. However, if we go to destructive, that's when things really get cooking with gas. We can just cut and we see that everything we do just immediately takes place on the one above because it's just applying it and keeping the object data congruent. So this is something that was a long time bug with Boxcutter over in the 2.8 era, and now as you can see, that issue is something of the past. And so now you should be able to cut just like you've always wanted, retaining your object data linkage.